y'all, Farmer Dre back at us on the beautiful day here on the farm. I'm standing out here in our high density apples, and I want to go ahead and show you guys how the trees are looking, the crop that we have on them this year, and how everything turned out for this year. So we planted this block of trees here back in spring of 2019. That's when I first started my YouTube channel as well. So if you guys go back, or I'm gonna probably leave a link to the video of us planting these trees in 2019 down in the description box below. So these are in their third season, and with high density apples, this is the first time you wanna leave a crop on these trees. So we have a light crop this year. Unfortunately, we lost about 75% of our entire apple crop to frost this year. April 21st, when it got down to 23 degrees for about 5 hours, the majority of the fruit that was on the bottom of the trees, the first blooms that came out, they frosted out. It's not ideal, but you know, it is what it is. We tried doing, I sprayed some nutrients. You know, I was out here trying to protect them, but you know, when it gets down to 23 degrees for so long, there's not much you can do about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys the trees, the structure, how they all are, and the crop that we have on them this year. So if you guys remember, every single row here is a different variety. The trees came from Vaughn Nursery. They're out of Tennessee. They're not a tree or an apple tree nursery. They do a lot more peaches. They do a few apples. So, you know, on these high density systems, whenever you're buying your trees from a nursery, make sure that, you know, whenever you're buying the trees, make sure they're putting the Graft Union really high. And I'll show you guys that in a second here and what I mean by that. But, you know, these trees came from Vaughn Nursery. They were nice, healthy trees. They're looking good, so we planted them. And with high density apples in the first 2 years, all you want to do is grow the tree so the tree can reach the top wire by the end of the second year or middle of the third year. And then of course in the third season you want to crop the apples for the first time, and that will be the first crop you will see off these apples. And then years 4 through 20, 30 years, you'll go ahead and continue harvesting the apples and continue to keep the trees maintained. Before I forget here, I'm going to show you guys the Graft Unions here. So what I mean by that, so this is the Graft Union right here, and this is a really good tree. It's actually out of the ground. So with high density apples, you want the Graft Union to be, you know, 6 to 8 inches out of the ground. So the point of having the Graft Union 6 to 8 inches out of the ground, it actually dwarfs a tree even more than it should. Even though these are on a dwarfing rootstock, these are on Geneva 41. We have a few rows on a Geneva 11, but they're all dwarfing rootstocks. But with this high density system, you know, the smaller you can get the tree, the better. So the less vigorous, you won't have any problems long term. So make sure the nursery you get your trees from, they talk to them, see if they could put the Graft Union a lot higher. A lot of the new trees that we're planting now are coming from a different nursery, and they're really good about doing that. Their Graft Unions, you know, from the roots to the Graft Union is about 20 inches. So you got plenty of room to mess around with it and leave plenty out of the ground there. So that's the whole Graft Union thing. So these trees, they're really doing really great, and I will show you guys the crop here and what you can expect out of high density apples. So this is a perfect example right here of what happened. So all the fruit from down here frosted, except the fruit on the first year wood. So this fruit right here was all on 1 year old wood, and these are Fujis here. And look at that beautiful, fresh, crisp fruit here. You know, and you know that other than having the fruit up top, there's nothing here on the bottoms, and we haven't came through and picked that all through here. So this is what I mean. I mean the blossom that bloomed later, you know, are on here, but everything else is kind of nothing on here. So other than a few fruit on each tree, there's not much here. On this area right here, we have Fuji, and these are Liberty, or they're supposed to be Liberty. I'm not sure. These are the Liberty apples right here. These are ripe and ready to be harvested right here. So that's a Liberty apple. They're really good flavor apple. They have a very unique flavor. But throughout this whole row, I'm not sure what happened at the nursery. We got the trees and started planting them, but apparently there's some other varieties in here, and I'm not even sure what kind of apple this is here. I gotta try them and taste them. They kind of look like a pink lady, but you know, like this tree right here, completely different variety. I'm not sure what's going on here. And then you have two good Liberty trees, and then right here we have another you know, they're all labeled as a Liberty apple, so I'm not sure what to expect or to see. So for us here on the farm, we're mainly a U pick, so it's not that big of a deal to get your trees mixed up. It kind of is because, you know, whenever you go through down through the row, you want to have one single apple. But yeah, there's a few trees through here, like this is a Liberty right here. A few trees through here that are not what they say they are, and if they might be a Liberty, but they might just be a different strain, I gotta come through here and taste them and see exactly what they're talking about. But other than that, other than this row Liberty and whatever apples are mixed in there, everything else is true to name. So these Fujis here are all true to name, and like I mentioned, if it wasn't for the frost, these trees would have had quite a few fruit on them. So let's talk about the tree structure and what you kind of want to expect. This high density system, we're training them to a tall spindle, so it's mainly just a fruiting wall here. So what you want to do is from the start, leave your rootstock out of the ground a few inches, 4 to 6 inches out of the ground, or 6 to 8 depending how much you have. Go ahead and grow your tree out in the first few years all the way to the top wire. As you can see, this is a 3-year-old tree. We're way above that top wire. That top wire is at 9 foot, so we're way ahead of that. And one thing that I learned on these trees is, and what I should have done is I should have cut all these trees back to a whip when I got them from the nursery. So this branch originally came from the nursery, and I should have came here and chopped this up, because you can see here, this branch right here is just as thick as a leader there, and you don't want that, because all this branch right here is pretty much a waste, because I'm gonna have to come through and cut it out, and it produced me no apples, and it's almost it's as thick as a main leader here. So it's just a process where you live and learn. But what you want, so the ideal wood in this high density system is you want small, this is even this is too big right here, but you want small little itty bitty whips here, kind of like this one right here, you know, 1.5 feet long or thinner, you know, real small, real flanky. So with the apples, the younger the wood, the higher quality fruit it's going to produce, and the older the wood, the less high quality apple it's going to produce. So on the system, you want to regenerate the wood every couple of years. So I came through here last fall or last winter and pruned out some of the bigger branches. There are some fat branches on here. This one should have came out as well, but I was too scared to cut too much out of it so it won't grow too much. So I came through here, as you can see here, I left a stub cut, or that stub there. On these Fujis, you can leave a smaller stub. They have so much energy in them. So I cut that big fat branch, cut it, and then it produced us a nice small flank little branch, and hopefully that's gonna bloom there on the end this year and drag these branches down. One of the things I've learned about high density apples is on vigorous varieties like Fuji, you got to come through here and summer prune. We didn't have time this summer to come through and summer prune these. I did some younger trees, but you know, summer pruning is when you come down during the summer and chop it like right there at about 1.5 feet, 2 foot, and then all this excess growth wouldn't have happened right here because all the energy would have gone back to producing flower buds. And you got to time it right, perfect time of year. So this is the ideal branch you want here on high density apple. Just small, tiny, flexible wood. Even this stuff right here is too thick. That's decent. You don't want anything too big on these trees here. Down the road a little bit, and I want to show you guys. So I left this branch here with the idea to have, you know, I thought these apples will pull these branches down, but as you can see here, whenever they get too big and thick here, the diameter gets too big, you put a few apples on there and it has no more flexibility. You know, if it feels like just a flanky piece of wood like this, yeah, it'll pull it down, but if you get it too thick, it won't pull it down anymore. And then this branch right here is competing with the leader, so you don't want the energy to go into growing wood, because this tree right now is pretty much all we want. We don't want any more wood on this tree. It's at, you know, maybe a few more lateral branches coming out from that blind wood, but other than that, you don't want any more thick wood. So I'm gonna come through here and chop all this thick stuff out. You know, this branch right here came from the nursery as well. That should have came out when we first got them. But there's so much to learn, and there's so much to do on these high density apples. And you know, the system is not 100% perfected with different varieties. Every variety reacts differently. So that's the problem that I'm having here, is figuring what varieties need to do what. So the only issue of having such a big fat branch here is up here. As you guys see here, this is all blind wood. You have a few buds here, but if you leave a fat branch over here, you have an area of blind wood, and the blind wood is where there's no, like right here, this is blind wood, where you have a good, you know, 1 to 2 foot with no lateral branches on it. And this right here in a high density system doesn't pay off. It doesn't pay to have this. And whenever you have a big fat thick branch like you do on the bottom here, all the branches up here on top are blind. So this is the ideal branch right here, is what you want. A small, nice, thin wood, 2 high quality apples here, and you know, it's beautiful. And this tree has a few more apples on here, but like I said, it's just a learning process. You don't want this big fat thick stuff. And even though when I first planted these back in 2019, a lot of people say we're tied down the branches, This branch right here was tied down from the nursery. As you can see here, there's on the variety Fuji, there is no benefit of tying down the branches, because you tie it down and then it just comes right here and grows back up. And then this branch right here is it's almost 5 foot long. If we extend it, it's all the way in the middle of the row, and this is not what you want right here. So you know, it's better off to first couple of years cut everything off and just let that leader grow. I'm going to show you a different planting that we have of where the trees are looking a whole lot better than this. But overall, life's about living and learning. Now I know what not to do when it comes to high density apples and planting them. So you know, it's just part of the process. Look at this. This is just a sad story. This branch right here is almost as tall as the leader. It produced me no apples. I got to come through and chop this off. So it's just one of those deals where it is what it is. You figure out what works, what doesn't work. But you know, if I wouldn't have planted this, I would never have found out that, you know, what to do and what not to do. So it's the same things on these Liberty trees. These Liberty trees are a lot more vigorous. These branches grow really thick, and all these branches are pretty much going to come out this winter. And this is what blindwood is right here, and this is what you don't want. You can see here from the bottom wire all of this wire, there is no lateral branches right here. So on the high density system, this doesn't pay right here, because there's no fruit, there's no buds, there's absolutely nothing here. So there's different methods of notching and putting some max cell or something on there to get this to grow. But you know, this is already 3-year-old wood here, and the energy went into these big fat branches here. You know, we got 2 thick branches that I shouldn't have ever left on the bottom there. And then you have this blindwood here that's just here. And if you don't fill out the system in the high density apples, and you don't fill out the space, you're not gonna see a return on investment, because without the space there, if you don't fill out the trellis system, you're not gonna grow any apples, and without apples, you don't have what to sell here. So that's the thing that I learned is dead space or dead wood is no good, and now we kind of know what to do to prevent it, but there's still so many more things to do and learn. So these are Fujis that we planted in 2020. They're on a Geneva 41 rootstock. I got 2 rows here, and these are growing really nicely. They're in the 2nd year. I came through here and I summer pruned them, and you know, these trees are looking good. You have a lot of small flanky wood. Hopefully we'll put some nice fruit on these these branches next year. They'll be in their 3rd season here. Nice, beautiful growth. I still got to come through here and, you know, put those top wires on. We got to weld those on. I've been slacking here on this, but the tree system, or the tree has grown nicely. I left a few apples on here, not too many on these Fujis here, but overall these trees are better. They're not 100% perfect, but they're better. It takes a few years. This is what you want to see. So I came through here and summer pruned these right here. So you can see I chopped it up right here, right there on that point. It only grew a couple inches, and then it stopped. So this is what you want to see right here. When you summer prune, you make these branches a whole lot smaller. This is what you don't want to see either right here. So I came through here this winter. I think I cut it right there. It grew. Summer prune them right here, and that's what happened. So it's better to have 3 separate ones than to have one that's 5 foot long. So it's not too bad, not too bad. Always a process and always something to learn, but it's a lot. There's, compared to those 3-year-old Fujis, this wood right here is a lot more flexible. Looks a whole lot better here. So that is our 3-year-old high density system, or 2-year-old and 3-year-old on this side. There's so much to learn, and I'm glad I planted so many varieties on the rootstocks there to see how they're going to turn out and how they will be. Of course, there's so much to learn in the future, But you know, I'm glad we did it, because now, you know, planting in the future, we'll be planting a lot more higher value varieties, a lot more expensive trees. So you know, it's good to start off with some, you know, some less expensive trees, less expensive varieties. And you know, if you're going to trial and error, do it on something that won't cost you as much. So overall, these will start coming in production pretty heavily in the next couple of years. We'll figure out the system. We'll grow out the trees as needed, and you know, put some fruit on these things. But it's not a complete fail, but they're not perfect in no means. So it's just the you know, the experience is fun. You know, you got to stay on your toes and always keep on learning. I wanted to show you guys these trees that we planted here this past spring. These are Crimson Crisp on Geneva 935. A little more vigorous rootstock here, but these trees are, you know, not as vigorous as a variety, according to the guy who sold them to me. So you know, it's good to have a lot of people in the industry that enjoy it. But we got to come through here. We only got the first wire in now. We're going to come through here in a couple of weeks and finish welding the rest of it and start training them. But these trees here have grown like crazy. We got them from the nursery. They're fairly tall from the nursery, and I'm going to try to find a growing point here. So in the first year, yeah, from right here. So they grew from right here. They grew about 16 inches here. And look at all these lateral branches. The nice thing about Geneva 935 on a rootstock, they lateral branch really easily. So I'm gonna plan on, you know, we're gonna put on, get a stake, you know, train them to the top leader by the end of next year, and tie down some of these branches here to make them a little more flanky. But overall, these trees are growing. There are some trees, you know, that are almost at the top of the post there. They'll be at the top of the wire, and if the trees are top of the wire, we'll go ahead and leave a few apples on them next year. But this is a new planting right here, a whole lot different. Look at that rootstock. You know, the Graft Union is way out of the ground there. We painted these. There's not much blind wood. You know, you want to branch about every single, you know, nice palm of the hand there. So these trees are looking very, very good. We still got a lot of work at them, but overall they are good. So that's our high density system. Got 3 different years of plantings here. Not too many. Total acres on the farm of high density now. We probably have 3.5 acres of high density apples planted. So you know, slowly getting there. You know, this is the system of the future here. Much smaller trees on dwarfing rootstocks produce a lot less wood and more apples per acre, and that's the goal. That's the plan. We're not growing any more land here on Earth, so it's just part of the process. But this is where I'm gonna go ahead and end off the video. If you guys haven't already, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button if you guys enjoyed today's video. Don't forget, hit that notification icon so you guys can be notified whenever I do upload a video. I want to say thanks for watching up to this point. Y'all have a good day, and we will see you next time.